Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, March 10 meeting of the Westport Select Board. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F, this meeting is being recorded. I don't really have much in the way of announcements. Our next meeting is going to be 2 weeks from today, on March 24. I'd just like to remind voters that there is an election coming on April 8, so that check the town clerk's office for the April 8 information. And then Mr. Brewer reminded me that March 24, 2 weeks from today, the commuter rail is starting from Fall River, New Bedford. So go check. I thought they had free, but we're not sure. So we don't know. So it's free for a little while, right?
For the rest of the month.
Yeah. Okay. So so commuter rail to Boston starting in a couple of weeks. Is there anything else that we should talk about before we start? There's no executive session tonight. Okay. The first item that we have on the agenda is a public hearing. So I can ask you guys to come forward. This is a public hearing on the application of Gulf Resources, Inc., 635 and 634 American Legion Highway by the Westport Select Board on Monday, March 10 at 6:05 at the Westport Town Hall. On the application for an all-alcohol liquor license to be drunk off premises, Richard Carrig, manager. Can I get you to introduce yourselves?
Yes, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Attorney Mark L. Levin with law offices at 138 Rock Street, Fall River, Massachusetts. I'm here representing the applicant and the manager who's with me. Richard, introduce yourself.
Richard Carrig, Westport Gas, 7 Puddingstone Lane, Westport.
Welcome.
Thank you. Some of you have seen me a few times with Richard the past year. Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 138, gives this board the authority to issue liquor licenses. The few factors that you look at when you are looking at an applicant is, in fact, the petitioner himself. If you look at the background of the package we presented to you, you'll see that he has had several licenses in the past at different locations in the state of Massachusetts. Two of the places he has sold off that, but he still has 3 other licenses in the state. With that, if this is issued, my client will be paying a substantial $5,000 filing fee for the license other than the $200 fee that he normally would have. Now, if you look at my client's background, and I'm sure you've had the query examination, and you've looked at his background for his others, he has no blemishes as a manager running facilities that sell alcohol. Primarily convenience stores or gas stations that have the same similar thing that we're looking at. In this location, it becomes something that my client thought was a good place. It's in a good location. The reputation of my client running that facility is very good. He bought that years ago with family, and they had some environmental cleanup that they had to take care of by the prior owner that had not. They did that. They rebuilt a lot of the facility and refurbished it and made it modernized. So it's a very nice location, a nice looking facility on Route 6. Now, the next thing you look at is, in fact, that this board has already looked at.
It's on 177 on Route 6.
Oh, sorry. So it's one. Sorry. My fault. This board has already looked at this facility and the application we had when we asked for a waiver of the home rule and asked for this board to present to the town meeting last year a warrant to allow my client to operate, and specifically just for this location and only for him. That was unanimously approved at the town meeting, and subsequently in May 20th of last year came back to this board, and after that they did approve the solicitation to the state legislature to apply for a liquor license just for the establishment. And remember, it's not transferable, it's only for this property, and that's the only property it can be. So if someone had another facility somewhere else and wanted it, he couldn't transfer that. So it is restricted to that. But that was voted It went to the state. State went through the Senate, then went back to the House, went back to the Senate, went back to the House, and finally they approved this last December. So we now are coming to you and ask for this petition to be approved, since it was already approved as a special legislation under Chapter 258 of the Acts of 2024. Let's look at the location. One of the things you look at when you're issuing a license is location appropriate. It's not near a church, or within 500 feet of a church, not within 500 feet of a school. It's on a divided highway. Even better that there's actually separation there to keep.
It's not a divided highway.
Is that divided there at that point?
Undivided.
Oh,
I
okay.
get gas there all the time.
All right, well, it's not gonna, but you look at that, it's still a location that's not going to have any more noise or traffic than it is. People coming into there are picking up gas, and I've represented other people in other facilities like this. They basically aren't getting a lot of traffic from outside. It's really the people participating at the gas station, filling up the gas. They go and buy some sundries, and they may pick up some alcohol. And that's what my client's trying to pick up, that he has this, there is a greater population in this area, especially during the summertime, and this makes a nice, convenient way for the public to have this. The board makes a decision even if someone is objecting to it, but I think if you look at the fact that this came through here, it was advertised, it came through the town meeting, the sentiment of the community is this is acceptable, and as long as you find my client acceptable to having such a facility in a location, I think the board should act appropriately.
So I just want to point out that all the paperwork is in order. We did receive a police report that was favorable to the application. Does anybody on the board have any questions or comments?
This is for all alcohol,
Yes, it is.
and you're aware that there's another all-alcohol establishment down there, Sodom Road on 177,
Yes,
and a wine and liquor at Harry's right next to you.
We are.
What about that and the effect that would have?
no, I mean, like everyone says, competition's always good. I mean, people, I have, in my town, every other building is a lawyer, and I'm not concerned about what the lawyers do or don't do. They're gonna come to the facility either one, because the price is good, or that they're gonna carry something different than the other stores. And that's what my client has been successful with his other facilities. He's determined with what is being out there, what products he should or shouldn't carry, because other people will buy at another location, and that's fine. Competition's good. He's not looking to prevent other people from having their business. He just thinks there's enough business and there's enough population in this area, in this location, that people will come to his place. More so, like I said, because they're picking up gas at the same time, they may pick up a few sundries, and they'll go in and either bring some beer, or pick up a bottle of scotch, such as I would, and other products. But competition's good. I mean, that keeps price so it's not crazy for all out. So one guy is not gonna be so crazy about raising his price over another. Competition's good for everyone, and especially for the community.
So,
Anything else from the board? So this is a public hearing, so if we have anyone from the public who wants to make a comment, you can go to the microphone over here. And just introduce yourself, please.
My name's Kyle Vieira. I'm actually counsel to Harry's Country Store, which is 50 yards right next door to this new proposed location. I think one of the principal things that was left out from counselor's speech there was that part of the process here by the board is there needs to be an evaluation whether or not there's a public need in the town of Westport for another new all-alcohol license. My client has a beer and wine license 50 yards next door. There's 3 liquor stores within 3.5 miles of this location. I also think it's a little unfair to say this is really the first opportunity people have had to make public comment where they've received notice other than a publication in a local newspaper. We received the abutters notice. This is our first time. At the town meeting, many of the other local owners don't live in town. They had no opportunity to participate in town meeting because it was restricted only to the residents of Westport. So really, this is the first forum where, other owners have had a chance to really raise their concerns. And one of the primary concerns here is, and I've seen this a lot with special legislation, is that getting the license a year or two down the road, flipping the license for a profit, approximately $200,000 to $300,000 is the going rate for a license. Many of these store owners who have beer and wine licenses are sitting on a waiting list. They don't know a state representative, they don't know a state senator. So instead of being able to go and back channel a license which, as the town manager stated in the 23 hearing on this, was already denied in 2018 at the town meeting. The reason for that is that town meeting, I believe there was some contentious issues with the school system, so there was a lot more participants at that meeting, and that was addressed at that time. So I don't know what changed in the 5 years in between when that was denied and when this was raised, that we now have a public need for this license. You know, if there's some reasonable restrictions, which the board certainly has the ability to do, you know, such as, you know, I know they represented there'd be no changes, there'd be no additions to the building, there'd be nothing of that manner. And that if there's going to be some transference, it'll obviously need to go before the board, because the primary fear is here, we're going to have a license a year, I'm going to be back before you arguing that, you know, we raised this previously, that the purpose of this license was to flip it for a profit. Not saying that's what the applicant's doing, but I do see that, and that is common. If you look at Franklin just past summer, the same exact thing happened. So I'd request if the board is going to permit this license move forward, that there be some sort of restrictions on that. In particular, that there be, as he represented, there be no changes to the actual structure of the building, no additions, nothing like that, and that there is an ongoing gas station running there, because that is also a primary issue. If there's no different additional traffic, if you have a full liquor store, that may very well change the traffic patterns there as well. So that's what I would request, and my client would request, that the board consider reasonable restrictions on this license, just given the special nature of it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, could I have one question to the applicant? How long have you lived in town?
I've lived in town for probably 7 years, done business in town, owned property in town for almost 40 years now,
And how long have you operated Westport Gas?
since 2011. I mean, it's
And you did a major renovation, and you're pretty well
Complete.
maxed out at that location, right?
pretty much. Yep.
In 2010, you bought it.
I understand it because I use that location all the time.
No,
I do too.
I mean, we worked out of the little
Yeah, it's
kiosk
2010 they
before,
bought it, but
and
No, fixed an environmental issue.
Yeah, took care of
Bringing
it.
up to stormwater compliance.
100%.
Done a wonderful job over there.
I don't, so my understanding is, it's what he just said is different than what you just said, so I just want to clarify for the public. So my understanding is these the home rule petitions have to be for that location, for that person.
That is
It's not
correct.
transferable,
Right.
right?
It
is not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
For the location.
for the,
for the
lo-
location.
for the location, okay, so the location, not the.
Can never move.
Okay,
Right.
so
So I could sell it, and somebody
could sell
else.
you could
it
sell the
stays
entire
same.
store.
But you would still have to approve.
And then
That's
we would
not
have to
their
approve
intent.
the
They
fi-
wouldn't-
okay.
They wouldn't be wasting their time if they were intending. He's, like I said, of the 5 he's had before, 2 of them, they sold because they were in Western Mass. They were just too far away for him to keep up travel. The other 3 he still has, and he lives in this town. His whole family lives in this town.
Is there anything else from the public? Anything else from the board?
Madam Chair, I think that the establishment near Sodom Road, I may have said Sanford Road before, is probably more under threat because that's an all liquor establishment, as this will be. I'm a patron of Harry's, and they're good people, and I've been there for years, and they have an established group of customers that are quite loyal. But they don't offer other than wine and beer. So it would seem to me that there should be minimal harm to that establishment, but I could see where the other establishment might be more concerned, but then I don't think they're here tonight.
Point of clarification, my understanding is Harry's does have an all liquor license.
No, there's not.
No, they
Just
agree.
beer and wine?
We're on a waiting list for an all-alcohol license.
Okay.
So,
So just to address something the previous speaker said, the way that I know that there's a public need for it is the public overwhelmingly voted to support it. And, I appreciate that the notifications are different for town meetings than they are for public hearings, but it's not the first public hearing that we've had on this issue, and town meeting, they're the residents, they're the people who are voting, who said that.
If I may, in 2018, I understood one of the problems with my clients didn't explain to the public then is that everyone thought it was Gulf Oil. an out-of-state corporation
exactly.
coming in because they use the name Gulf Resources, but.
Well, and I think you hadn't done the renovation at that point either, I
No,
don't think,
no.
had you? But I think the
18, was it done?
the big argument at
It
the
was done in
time.
17.
Oh, 17.
Yeah, the big argument at the time at town meeting was this out-of-state company is putting a
Right.
local business out
was
of
'cause of
business, right? And
the
you've been
name.
a local, you live here and you've been I live in one of your homes, so.
But that was.
The company has
I
been here
know
for a long time.
That was part of what people afterwards, we found out, we asked people, said, why'd you vote? Well, we want Gulf Oil taking our little businesses away, so, so that's why we understood there was some other influence in that people thought it wasn't Carrick family that was running, it was someone else coming in.
Yeah. All right,
But
anything else?
anyway.
Anything else from the board?
I mean, like, so some of the other, I frequent the other establishments too, Harry's, we have some other establishments here that are just beer and wine. And I would suggest that maybe next town meeting, they go in that avenue and try to do the same thing. If they already have beer and wine, and you want to add alcohol, just follow that procedure. I mean, I think if it was successful this time, it should open a door for those other
It's
establishments.
available to anyone.
It's already an existing beer and wine license, and I'm all for free enterprise.
And I'll be participating on Main Street down the street here to get some wine.
I was inclined to vote against it, for the reasons that I voted against the next-door neighbor marijuana dispensary several months ago. But I was doing that under the impression that there was a all-alcohol license at Harry's and not just the beer and wine. So for that reason, I'm now inclined to support that application based upon the distinction that I now understand.
Madam Chair, could I explain something on that too? But, it was the same situation with the marijuana. I mean, it was voted that's the only location that it could be at. And I don't think we should restrict different businesses. Again, we have free enterprise.
I think we're discussing another matter.
I know, but you brought it up on this matter
Well,
too.
I think he might be agreeing with you.
I know.
Okay. So do I have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to grant the,
You're moving approval of the application as presented.
Nobody else second it? I'll second it.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So it's unanimous. Congratulations, good luck.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very
I
much.
appreciate whatever the board's done for my client.
The next item on the agenda is to set the municipal water rate, proposed 15%. I just want to ask, if you're going to go out, don't talk in the hallway, go downstairs to the parking lot. It's a beautiful day out there, you can go.
And the lights out.
And it's light. So the item is to set the municipal water rate. It's proposed at 15% over the rate charged by Fall River. So Jim, you want to tell us what this is about?
Yeah, so this is the rates that we charge customers here in Westport. We haven't had a rate increase since 2022. Right now, we're running a slight deficit, so I'm recommending that we increase the rates. And this goes back years, I think it was 2018 or 17, actually before that, when they had suggested in the minutes that the rate always be 15% of the Fall River rate, 15% higher, because there is a little bit of loss water that we need to account for, and there's also some admin costs. We have bills going out at the end of the month. Right now, Westport residents, what they're paying is $7.28 per CCF, which is 100 cubic feet of water, about 741 gallons. Proposing to increase the rate to $8.29, which is 15% above the Fall River rate. Also want to note that the Fall River Water Board has approved the new agreement with Westport that would reduce the rates that Fall River is charging us. Right now, they're charging us 70% over the Fall River rate. This would reduce it to 55% over the Fall River rate, up to a certain amount, and then anything over that amount would only be 5% over the Fall River rate. I still think we're going to need a slight increase again in July, but it should be relatively small if these rates does get approved by the city of Fall River. It's approved by the Watuppa Water Board, and it's going before the city council this week. So as long as the city council is in favor, I think we should be good. But at this point, like I said, we're running a deficit, so I'd recommend that we increase the rate to $8.29. $8.29 was still less than the rate was in 2018, so.
So I just want to make sure I understand the numbers here. So currently, people are paying $7.28,
That's correct.
but we're being charged $7.21. So we only have 7 cents markup on the water. So that's why we're running a deficit.
Yes.
So, but a dollar, okay, 99 cents. 99 cents seems like kind of a big jump
Yeah, that's
all at once. So can you talk about why you're recommending that?
So this is, right now, we're running a deficit. This kind of breaks even, or gets us close to even. Again, once this Fall River agreement comes through, we can reevaluate it over the next couple of months and adjust things come July.
But you think it has to be adjusted higher?
It'd probably go up higher, yes.
Yeah.
Shouldn't go up much higher, but it should go up higher.
Thank
I
you.
just don't want to surprise people when it comes July.
Yeah, go ahead, Manny.
So the new negotiated rate, what are we estimating that's gonna be?
Well, there's a couple of things, right? I think Fall River's rate, I think they're looking at about an 8% increase over their current rate.
Yeah, but-
New negotiated rate, we would pay 55% above the Fall River rate instead of 70%. So we'd be paying 15% less than we're paying now above the Fall River rate.
But our rate here isn't, I mean, I thought that the negotiation with Fall River was because we have the increase, we're gonna have the increase in usage, that our rate was gonna be reduced.
So it is. So anything over 20, the way it was proposed was anything over 26,000 CCF, and we're pretty much just over that now. We would only be charged 5% over the Fall River rate for anything over the 26,000. So all these new customers, it actually helps the system out because any increase in the flow, we're getting charged a lesser rate.
And what's the Fall River rate?
Right now, it is $7.21 a CCF.
And what are we paying now?
We're paying Fall River $7.28. No, well, I'm sorry, we're paying Fall
$7.21.
River $7.21. So the Fall River rate would be 70% less than that.
I just thought we were paying a lot more. I thought we had a higher percentage over Fall River. That was one of the things we were
We're
trying to negotiate.
70% over Fall River. So
Seven-
I just gave you the
What Fall River's paying, it's 7% less than 7.
70% less, yeah.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we set the water rate at $8.29.
$8.29, and then we're gonna reevaluate it over the next couple of months if the agreement gets approved.
Do we know what the average water bill is? Like how much?
So they say for single family, it's 80 CCF a year. But what we found is the average single family is closer to 60. So you're probably looking in between $500 and $800 a year.
For the year, not,
Yeah, so this would increase the yearly rate by about $100.
I'm not gonna vote in favor of this until we know what the rate's gonna be. I think it's a little premature. And I think this would take back from people that were trying to connect into the water right now. So I'm not gonna vote in favor of this.
How bad is the deficit, Jim? I don't have that up right now.
We have, there was a spreadsheet in the file.
Was it printed out?
It wasn't printed out, no.
Oh, okay. My file just closed, so.
this is,
All right,
is this what you're talking about?
Yes, yeah, so.
I mean, I'm concerned too with prices going up with the way utility is crazy right now, so. But if we got a deficit, we have to stay alive.
Yeah, so this didn't have the whole, this just has, so Westport is paying Westport's paid 194,000. Our customers paid 214,000. So about, what is that? About 20,000. So the town of Westport received about $20,000 more from the water customers than we sent to Fall River. But that's also because we're paying for other things in that, right? So we're paying for, are we paying for the runoff?
We're paying for water operator, we're
Right.
paying to, we just replaced 2 hydrants, which was $4,000. We're also paying for water that is not accounted for, that
Right.
comes through Fall River, which is about anywhere from 6 to 10% of the water. So that is not being paid for by Westport residents, but we are paying for it in Fall River, so we need to accommodate for that as well.
Jim, so, and for connections, what do we pay Fall River when somebody new wants to connect?
So right now, if it's an existing property, they're not charging us for connections. If it's a new house, we pay based on the septic load. So for 3-bedroom, I want to say it's, you know, I don't want to guess, but I think it's $900 if I remember correctly.
And and it's the same for commercial, too?
Commercial would go by their septic load.
So like the recent commercial ones, they went by septic load for the connection, there was no connection fee on any of the commercial? I mean, that's probably why we're running at a deficit, is we need to charge permits and we need to charge connection fees, and then we wouldn't be running at a deficit. I mean, our whole idea on the water is to bring the water to the residents that need clean drinking water, so I think it's kind of, I mean, we got to look at other ways to be not running at a deficit when we're trying to get the water main down the commercial strip and not be taxing the people that need clean drinking water.
I agree.
Anything else from the board? All right, and Jim, did you have something?
You've covered some of the things, but what I wanted to ask is the green bar the one that you're proposing, $9?
The orange, $8.29.
So what is a household in Fall River paying, do you know?
I don't have that number here, but let me get Mike. Let me see.
Well, the Fall River rate is $4.24. So the Fall River rate is $4.24. Westport's paying $7.28.
River has a storm
$7.21.
fee on top of it that we don't have in here, though.
So are we going to be charging a stormwater fee?
No, I'm just saying they have extra.
So, all right, I mean, I just don't, so, I mean, I thought this new renegotiation was gonna bring us more in line with what Fall River residents are paying, which would give us, we'd have more wiggle room. So that would be more
Even with the
reason to
new
wait
agreement-
until we get the agreement.
Even with the new agreement, we still need to be up at least $8.29.
I think we should wait for the new agreement before we start setting rates.
Jim, did you have more?
Yeah, I just think it's kind of crazy for Fall River to be charging us so much. And I just don't understand how that is. I'm sure that a lot of their facilities were paid for by the federal government, and we pay taxes to the federal government. I don't understand why they're going to charge us 50% more for the first bit of water or more. It was 70% more?
Right now, we're paying 70% more than Fall River.
But in this new agreement, that's supposed to change.
It would drop down to 55% more. And then after a certain amount, it would only be 5% more. So we benefit, the more people that tie into the system.
Yeah, I
We
agree,
essentially pay the same rate as they do.
except for the first part, which
That's
is
the first part.
very onerous. But, so, to me, it is another issue that points towards we need to have a regional water authority that can service everybody instead of having the city council of Fall River set our rates.
And I'm a little bit confused now, too. So this is for our existing customers. So they're not going to be included in the renegotiation of the increase? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, they will, right? So all the customers will be included. All the customers will pay the same rate as we move forward. But
Which should
the
be
amount
around
we
$5
pay-
now, is what we're saying.
I'm sorry?
Which would be 5 and change if we're closer to Fall River.
I think if I understood what you're saying, is there's a certain amount of water we're paying a premium, 55% over, and then the next, anything over that is only 5% over. So then you pool that money, divide it up when you set
No,
the
I
rate.
don't, that's not the way I interpreted it. I interpreted it once we bring that threshold, it was all going to drop down. So that's more reason to let's wait until we see what the negotiation is.
So the agreement, as I understand, is like you said, the first 26,000 CCF, we would pay 55% more than the Fall River rate.
Can you get a clarification on that? Because that's not what I think the issue is.
Yeah.
So more
And then
reason.
after that, we would pay 5% more for any additional water used.
Okay.
So, can you talk about the impact that this deficit is having and whether, I'm trying to understand how urgent it is that we set the water rate now, versus waiting?
So the only reason to set it now is bills go out the end of March, so it would allow us to bill
Do we bill quarterly?
quarterly for this one quarter. Right now, we're eating into our
The reserve,
reserves.
yeah.
Excuse me, the other question I have is, why would the water company be responsible for the cost of hydrants? It would seem to me that's a town issue, not a water issue. It's for fire suppression, not for drinking.
So anything related to the water line is going through the enterprise fund and funded through the enterprise fund.
Any other comments from the public?
Oh,
We are going after the insurance company for one of those, but we just haven't.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we could also, apply for grant money for fire hydrants and stuff like that, too. I mean, we've applied for one grant since I've been on the planning board for 5 years now. I mean, have we applied for anything to continue that?
So I think we applied for a number of grants.
Okay, well, we got one, and have we applied for one after that?
We have not, no.
So.
That's 2 years ago?
So the question on the table right now is, should we change, so the current rate that's set is $7.28. So the question before us right now is, do we want to make a change to that rate at this time? What's the pleasure of the board?
I will not vote in favor of that.
You do not want to make a change, everybody?
I'm inclined not to vote for it. I can see myself voting for this at some point in time with more clarification, but I'm not ready to do it tonight.
Yeah.
So why don't we get more information, since it doesn't seem like it's going forward?
Yeah, I think, Jim, one of the things I would like is a better understanding of the impact to the overall budget for the water line, right? So, like, I appreciate that we're at a deficit, right? But let's get an overview of all of the things all of our outflow money, like what are we doing with the money that we're collecting, right? And then look at when that seems like it's going to be a problem. I mean, I understand it's already a problem, but it's, look at what point that is. So I think for your March billing, it's going to have to go out at 7/28.
Okay.
And then we'll address it probably when we get when are we going to have the contract? So Fall River is voting this week on the agreement?
So the Watuppa Water Board is the approving authority. They've approved the agreement, but I believe they've done it, they're passing it to City Council, because City Council had some concerns with it last time.
Okay.
So if City Council is in agreement with it this time, then we should be good before the next meeting of the Select Board.
Okay, so we can talk about the questions, the understanding of the rate and how that's going to be calculated and that kind of thing. We can talk about that at the next meeting.
Sure.
I have one more question on the operation of it. So those hydrants, so the contractor that installed those hydrants, I believe we waited 7 or 8 months for them to come and put the hydrants in. So there's also, I believe there's a meter that needs to be replaced, that the operator of the system's waiting on that contractor to replace that meter. I don't know what their rates are, what their charges are, but I know we have several plumbers that live in town. We have 3 of them that are plumbing inspectors that could change that meter out, and I'm sure it'll be cheaper than the out-of-town contractor coming in. So I think in moving forward, we could probably get that meter changed out this week. So if you could look into
The meter's
that.
already been changed.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, so it seems like.
How long did we wait for the meter to be changed?
You know, I heard about it on a Monday, it was changed that week.
Yeah, but I think we had been waiting some time.
Possible, I can check.
Okay.
All right, so we're taking no action on that item. I want to skip, I know we have some people waiting for topics. Just going down well, none of these are going to take very long, I don't think. All right, so 4A, we have a request from Matt Armendo, the Public Health Director, to appoint Luis Carvalho as Transfer Station Foreman effective March 13, 2025. Can you tell us about this one, Jim?
Yeah, this is a new hire. I believe the resume is in the packet. The previous hire was not able to work on weekends, so he is no longer with the town, and he has his qualifications. He does have a CDL license, so according to the health director, he's looking forward to getting him on board. I'd recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Anything from the board?
I'll move it with the town administrator's recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Chris Gonsalves, the highway surveyor, to appoint April Oliveira to assist the highway department as needed as a seasonal per diem position effective March 14, 2025. So this is for a part-time seasonal hourly employee.
Yes,
No labor issues there, no union issues?
not that I'm aware of.
Well, we know she's capable, so I'll move her.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Michael Burris, the town planner. So this is to appoint people to the Beach Management Planning Committee. So the request is to appoint Kevin Kurt, Sean Leach, Ross Moran, George Cowell, and a member of the Select Board to the Beach Management Planning Committee. You went to the mic, so you have something to say.
Yes, I just wanted to say that it doesn't say it here, but if nobody from the Select Board wants to be appointed, I would be appointed from the Planning Board.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to be on the Beach Management Planning Committee?
Nobody wants it? I guess.
I couldn't be on that committee.
Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, I think we're gonna have Jim as, we can't appoint you, yeah, we can.
We need to change the makeup of the committee first.
Okay, so we can't appoint you tonight. All right, so do we have a motion?
Are we gonna move this now? The way it's,
Just the other appointees.
Just
and
the
then
other,
next
so
meeting.
I'll entertain a motion to appoint Kevin Kurt, Sean Leach, Ross Moran, George Cowell to the Beach Management.
So moved.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Don't let the fact that we didn't volunteer to sign up for that committee mean we don't think it's an important committee. We have a request from Beverly Bish to appoint Robert Souza as a part-time van driver.
Hey, everybody, I'm back. And I'll be back in 2 weeks again. Robert Souza is applying for a part-time van driver position. He worked many, many years for CERTA and has retired from there. He also worked for Fisher Bus Company. So he's worked with children and adults and seniors and wheelchairs, and very well qualified, and we're really happy to have him on board.
All right, great. Anything for Bev?
Sounds
Or the-
qualified. I move, we appoint Robert Souza as a part-time van driver.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Congratulations.
That was,
Welcome
see that?
aboard.
Painless.
Crazy.
Staples, that was
There you
easy.
go.
See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Yep, I'll be back in 2 weeks with another van driver.
Now I'd like to invite Christopher Dunn, the police chief. We have several items here.
We do. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
So the first one is a request to accept the resignation of Officer Brandon Antone. Yes. Anything you want to say about that?
No, just to move forward, please. Yes. He decided, he did great work for us. He just decided to go back to Fall River.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request to appoint Joshua Sherman as Community Service Officer contingent upon successful completion of a background check effective March 23rd, 2025.
So I think this is the first time in front of the board regarding a CSO, Community Service Officer. So just to give a little background, they're civilian, they're non-sworn, they have no police powers, no arrest powers, no enforcement. We've utilized in the past for road construction details when either full-time officers or reserve officers are not available, and this just offers us a way to stay within the department, to stay within the town, and not go outsourced to like Dartmouth or Bristol County Sheriffs for details. Like I said, Mr. Sherman's a lifelong resident of Westport. He's employed as supervisor to United States Postal Service. He's not here this evening. He's away on vacation in Florida, but I hope to have him here at another date if the board moves forward with this.
Thank you. Anything?
Just if I could. Sorry I didn't get to call you on this on the side. On the CSO position, can they write tickets at the beach too?
They cannot.
They cannot even write parking tickets? Oh, unfortunate.
I agree.
All right,
It's been explored.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. And then we have a request to appoint Christian Theodore as Reserve Police Officer contingent upon successful completion of background and psychological review effective March 23rd.
Yes, Lieutenant Theodore's seated behind me. Um, He just recently retired from Massachusetts State Police. Like I mentioned, he had extensive experience both in narcotic and internal affairs. He's married, lives in town. He would definitely be a big asset to our department. We've conveyed our goals and expectations with him, just like Board Member Roulette just said about parking tickets down the beach, about what we need for him besides just working details, and he is 100% on board.
Great, thank you. Any,
Let them come up, or you're gonna have them stay there?
do you want,
Would you like to have him come?
would you like to say
Why don't you
something?
come up and say
Come
hello, so
say-
everybody
say
can see you at
something.
home, yeah.
Lieutenant?
Yeah.
You
They like
you
to
can come
know,
up or you can go there.
they like to know who can pull them over.
Steve likes to say stuff.
How are you?
Good.
Good evening.
All right, very good.
Did you have questions for her, or you just wanted to say hello?
No, just so I'm sure you realize you're not only a reflection on the department, you're a reflection on us for appointing you. So if you do anything bad, we all get yelled at.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm very well aware.
We expect you to do a good job.
Yes,
Okay, I'll move you.
Second.
thank you.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Welcome
Very good.
aboard.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Anything else, Chief, while you're here?
We're gearing up for the summer. I know it's March, but the summer will be here quickly upon us, so we're getting ready for the summer. With the resignation of Officer Antone, we've already started a full-time officer process, which I'm hoping to be in front of the board late April, early May. It's a very competitive process with the regional academies, so we're constantly fighting against the likes of Fall River, New Bedford, Brockton, Braintree. There's only 50 seats in each academy class, so we try to move very quickly upon this. So I would be here probably late May, early May, late April.
Is, can we find out on the radio for Horse Neck Beach if it's gonna be working this year, if you guys don't know already?
Sure.
Either you or I, and maybe we could just, we used to have a generic message, slow down or whatever. Can we find out if they can get that active again, or if they're just giving up on it? I don't know if there's a problem with the equipment, or just nobody's maintaining it.
You know, radio to turn on to a frequency when they
Yeah,
come in?
remember they had the sign up and everything?
Sure.
And then it went down, and I don't know what happened after that, but it'd be nice to at least have a message on there, you know, please slow down, before they have the beach open.
I can reach out to Jeff McGee,
Okay.
who oversees Horse Neck Beach.
Okay,
I can reach out to him and see where we're at with that.
that'd be great, just see if it's going or not.
Sure.
you know. Thank you.
And if not, we can look to see if maybe the state has something for a sign that we can put on 88, just to advise people.
Through the chair too, just so you know, they're supposed to be working on those chevrons at 88 North. Remember I told you after 88 North that they get
Yeah.
knocked down so many times and we don't
Yes.
have many? They're supposed to be putting up new, I think they were just waiting for the ground to thaw, so hopefully we'll get those done soon.
Okay,
Good.
All right?
great.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much. Have a nice night. Thank you.
We have a request from the Conservation Commission to appoint a select board representative to the Open Space Committee. Anybody want to be on the Open Space Committee?
Madam Chair, that's one I am interested in.
Okay.
I'm a lame duck, so there you go.
All right, anybody want to arm wrestle Dick for that one?
I'll make a motion that Dick get appointed to the
Second.
open space.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request to approve the job description and post the position of Assistant Registrar of Voters Principal Clerk. You want to tell us about this one, Jim?
Yes, so we're proposing the position be modified from assistant position to a principal clerk position, which is one level down, I guess. We also modified the job description to have the new person in there also provide assistance to the town clerk's office. That office gets very busy sometimes, and then there's some times when it's very slow. And in the past, we have shared responsibility with the town clerk. This just kind of formalizes that process. So I'd recommend approval of the job description and posting of the position.
And the union's already agreed.
We have met with the union, their agreement, yes.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Martin Costa for Clean Our Westport, COW, to approve the annual spring cleanup day, Saturday, April 12, from 9 to noon, with a rain date of Sunday, April 13.
Through the chair, Paula, he also wanted to know and put up the banner, I guess if we got to put it in the note, so if we can get it probably for the next meeting, just for that. I think everybody's familiar with Cal by now. Martin's done a heck of a job bringing it up when I had it from like 6 people. So I'll move it.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I think, I know they have Facebook presence. Go check them out on Facebook. It's a Clean Our Westport. It's really actually kind of fun picking.
Yep.
It's a shame you have to pick up trash on the side of the road, but it is kind of.
Fill a dumpster every time.
We fill a lot, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request to accept the deed from FL Tripp and Sons, Inc. for lots identified as Westport Assessors Parcel 5433 and 5433A. So this was addressed at last year's town meeting, right?
Yes, two small parcels on the north side of the cemetery and on the north side of the transfer station. They're landlocked parcels. We've gone through the process. They've done the title. The deeds are ready. They've signed off on the deeds. The one on the north side of the transfer station, I think, does have some value to the town. I recommend approval.
So moved, it's already been through town meeting.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request to review and close the warrant and forward to the Finance Committee. This is a warrant for town meeting. We did have a recommendation to amend the wording of Article 24. So is this the only change?
That is the only change, with the exception of some transfers.
Oh, right, so the transfer amounts. Okay, so for Article 24 is the one where the change is the eligibility of the Finance Committee. So in order to, no elected officer shall be eligible to serve on the Finance Committee. There was some back and forth with legal about the appointed part, because it says no elected or appointed town official. But we actually do have appointed people that are serving on committees a lot, like us, for example. So that was the recommend from legal, right? What's in red on our little paper that we got.
That's it, yep.
Okay. All right, so is there anybody have any questions or concerns about the warrant or closing the warrant?
Well,
Madam Chair,
Go ahead, Dick.
if you would allow, I was going to talk to this issue here regarding this particular item, Article 24. I was curious as to who are the subjects of this, who would this affect? I guess it's another way of saying how many elected officers, not elected officials, but officers, do we have that would be the subject of this change?
I don't know the full count, but it'd be the Select Board, Planning Board, Board of Health, trustee, library trustees.
School committee assessors,
committee,
Yeah, anything.
anybody elected.
Landing
Fish
commission.
Commissioner, Landing Commission.
Yeah.
Well, are all people who are elected officers?
Yeah,
Yes. And the officers was the terminology that town council recommended as opposed to official. He said that's what's referenced in the state statute.
Yeah. Further to this, in terms of discussion, this is something I found to be a little bit confusing to begin with, and was concerned as to why this was even an issue. It seems to be what I often say is a problem looking for a solution, or a solution looking for a problem. And it seemed to be isolated to one person and one position. I'm just not sure this is a good thing to do. Now, of course, the town meeting will vote on this. But I would be concerned about this. I just wanted to express that for the record.
but you don't have objections to putting it on the warrant?
No.
Yeah, okay.
I got a question. So the Finance Committee, what is the Finance Committee charged with to recommend to the Select Board? No? Is that what,
No, the Finance Committee recommends the budget to town meeting.
okay. So, then all right, so I'm okay with having put it on town meeting then.
Right, was there any other of the articles that we had?
I just had one comment, and I think we're probably past it now, but on the short-term rentals, the new bylaw would put the responsibility for issuing the permits with the Select Board, which means it would run through our office. And, you know, last year, the Board of Health, they were gonna have the Board of Health issue the permits, but it was gonna be too much work, so that was not done. It's just gonna put a lot of responsibility on staff here that, you know, we'll work through it, but it's not gonna be easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think there's probably several articles that we need to have specific conversation about whether we're recommending them or not, and I think that's for sure one of them, the short-term rental. I think the finance, this one probably maybe merits some public conversation, and I can't think off the top of my head of the other. We usually have CPC come in and talk about their projects. So I think that we should plan between now and May 6th. It's May 6th, I think, right? Between now and May 6th, we should have some meetings where we bring in some of these people in.
I mean, Jim, couldn't that be, like, put into the online permitting now? And go through that and go through the building department? Because now all the different departments are gonna reporting to that, so shouldn't that be where that goes?
We could look at it. It's the enforcement and the chasing down of people if they don't file, right? You know, how do you get their contact information? We do it with East Beach, and it's time-consuming with East Beach, and I think it would be a similar process. It can be done, and we'll do it if we're,
I mean, if we had to enforce, but right now, the way it works, doesn't this, the state kind of pays us what it is?
they do, but they have to register with the town. And if they don't register, what happens if there's a complaint?
If they get a complaint, then we can make sure they're registered with the town. I don't think we have to run around chasing them.
Well, so the current article for that is also saying that the applicants will self-certify. So like where we have the fire department go inspect to make sure that businesses, before we give them a permit, this one is saying that they're certifying on their own that, yes, I meet the fire codes, yes, I meet the health codes, yes, I do all these things. So I'm actually in favor of it, but mostly because it gives you the ability to revoke the license if there's a problem. But, to Jim's point, if we get 100 registered and only 50 the next year, what do you do? Like, it is somewhat problematic. But I think we should definitely talk about that. But I think you're right about the online permitting, is look at how do we feed that in there. Were there other articles, Jim, that you want to talk about?
That's all I had.
And we haven't had any petition articles.
We have 2 street acceptances.
Two
That's
streets,
it.
okay. All right, so I will entertain a motion to close the warrant and forward to the Finance Committee with the amendment for Article 24 as described.
So,
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request to move forward on the Mass DOT design for the Drift Road culvert replacement at Kirby Brook. So Jim, you're gonna tell us all about this, and I did want to point out that there was correspondence in our files about this one, that's in the correspondence folder. Jim, you want to go tell us what this is about?
Yeah, so we've been working on this for a couple of years. Park Corporation actually did a bridge inspection back in 2021 and found deficiencies in the bridge itself. So based on that, we looked and we applied for a grant with Mass DOT under the Small Bridge Program. And they awarded a grant to do the design for a new structure over this Kirby Brook. Power Engineering was hired through Mass DOT, so they're working for Mass DOT. They're not contracted by the town. Mass DOT has been overseeing the design. They have met with us once. We also supplemented the budget with PAS so that we could have additional meetings with some of the neighbors. We've requested an extension on the grant itself just to get us through 2026, which Mass DOT agreed to. We've met with neighbors on a number of occasions. They obviously have concerns with the bridge structure and aesthetics, the length of the guardrails, the colors of the railings, the texture of the concrete. This is a picture of a bridge that was recently done by Mass DOT at Lloyd State Park. Mass DOT is very structured in their processes, in their design criteria. They do not waver a lot from their design criteria, if they waver at all. They did indicate that we would have some say as far as the textures on the abutments, would be the concrete abutments on either end of the brown railing there. We could have some say in the color of the railings, possibly whether or not the guardrails have wood poles in the back of the guardrails, but it's going to be a structure that looks like a mass highway type structure. We do not have funding for the structure once the design is complete, and that's pretty typical. Mass Highway funds a lot of projects for design. We're doing it right now on 177 with the roundabout. We're doing it on Gifford Road and 177 with the blinking light, where we get it designed, and then we apply for funding either through the Transportation Improvement Program, or Mass Highway may have some other type of programs, either through the Small Bridge Grant Program, to fund some of these. I will say that Mass Highway typically tries to do their best to find funds to construct it if they go through the whole design process, especially if they're spending money on the design process. So I anticipate that sooner or later there would be funds available to construct it. This is not something I can see the town constructing on its own. you're looking at probably $1.5 million to $2.5 million to do this. We just don't have funds locally to build this type of structure. Even if we designed it on our own and we were going for state money later, Mass DOT is going to want us to meet their standards if we're using any of their money. So, and I know there's some neighbors here today, we've met with them a number of times. I think we're at the point now where I'm asking the board to either move forward with the design as is, realizing that it's going to be a serious bridge structure, which we may have some minor participation as far as some of the aesthetics, but it's going to be a typical bridge structure. Either we go forward with Mass Highway design or we don't, but at some point, if we don't go forward with the design, the town's going to have to absorb the cost for design and possibly construction. I think they have, I don't know offhand what the contract was for design, but I believe it was $300,000 range, so. I guess what I'm looking for from the board is some direction as to whether or not we tell Mass DOT to go forward with the design. And again, we will push as hard as we can to get what we're looking for in the design, but there are limitations as to what Mass Highway will do.
So my understanding is that that we're at the 25% level of design now, right? Is that right?
Yeah, we could be a little bit further than that, but yeah, that's what they've said, 25%.
And so then what would we have to do to move forward?
We would just have to let Mass DOT know that the town wants to move forward with the design. They've kind of put it on hold until the town can make a decision as to whether to move forward or to forget about the design.
So you're looking for this board to give you direction about what to tell the state. So should we keep going with the design? Are we paying for the design?
They're paying for the design.
They're paying for the design.
Which is, I don't want to say part of the issue, but the engineering company's contract with Mass DOT, so we don't have a lot of authority over the engineering company. We have to kind of go through Mass DOT and ask for specific changes or to the design, and Mass DOT will work through their engineer to do that if they agree to it.
So I know that the neighbors they have a pretty good list here of things that they'd like to see addressed. Does the next portion of the design, will it at least look at those things? Like if they're still designing it, are they not still looking at some of those issues, or all those are in the 25% design?
Yeah, no, they will look at some of those issues, some of the aesthetic type issues, and Pa mentions those in their letter. Again, they can do some textured things on the abutments that may make it look a little bit more like rustic stones. They can change the color of the railings. They, the length of the guardrails, we've argued numerous times with them over the length of the guardrails, and the engineers said they will not reduce it any further, and Mass DOT says it needs to meet standards. So there's certain things that I don't think they're gonna change regardless of how hard we fight.
Anyone else? Go ahead, ma'am.
So we got a grant for this design,
Yes.
and then you said that we had to supplement town money?
The town, select board appropriated $7,000 to have Power Engineering meet with the neighbors to see if they could address some of their concerns.
Okay, so the $7,000 that we did was kind of to address these issues, and reading the letter from Power Engineering is like, this bridge, they gave us a grant to design it, and it will be a bridge, and when it goes to be built, we'll be looking to get money from the state to build it, so the design will be sitting there. We've already put the money in the design was paid for, so I think we should move forward with the design. However, in the need of bridges in town, and we have the one right at the head, I think we also need to look at having the head design, since we have a Mass Highway report on the condition of the head bridge. So we need to, while this bridge will be sitting there designed, and the design will never go bad, we might need to look at the urgency, since I do know that the guardrails that we'll put into Mass Highway standards, and that's what's kind of prompted this whole new design of a bridge. So I think since it's paid for and will be designed to Mass Highway standards, that's be money very well spent, since we didn't have to pay for it. It's unfortunate that we had to pay another $7,000 to argue with Mass Highway, but I would recommend moving forward with the design.
Did you have something?
Yeah, at this point, I'm abstaining in case I gotta pursue it in this
Okay.
case.
I was going to ask Jim through the chair, so if we decide not to go forward, what are the consequences? What perils do we face? Do we lose the opportunity to have the state pay for this?
Yeah, I don't know if there'll be another opportunity to have them to apply for a grant, to have them to design, but this program that we're in now, you know, I guess the question is, would they look favorably upon the town if we've already turned away funding for a project? Are they gonna wanna fund it next year or the year after? And then if they don't do it, we don't really have the funds to design it, and if we do design it, we're gonna have to design it to similar standards if we want the state to participate in the payment of the project.
So if there is some risk in not moving forward here in terms of the ultimate outcome of this project. and
At
its
some
cost.
point, it's gonna have to be addressed.
I guess I'm struggling to try to understand that too. So if we say, no, don't proceed, so there's a 25% design that is on the shelf. We don't do anything, just keep the road exactly how it is right now. And then I hear what you're saying, like if 3-4 years from now, we're like, oh, the bridge is really deteriorated, now we need funding. Now the likelihood of getting a grant is reduced because they're gonna say, we tried to tell you a while back. But I think we've asked this question before in the regards there that, do we have any kind of liability here? Now, we have a known bridge that has an issue. Is there a liability to the town here if there's some sort of accident or something over there?
Yeah, so my understanding is, this is kind of on the watch list now with Mass DOT, so they will inspect this on a regular basis, and right now, it's not, hasn't reached the point where they've put any weight limitations on it or anything, but if it does deteriorate more, that's something they could do, which would mean, you know, trucks or school buses couldn't pass over this, they'd have to go around until it's addressed. So, you know, and that may be 20 years down the line before that happens, and it may be 2 years down the line.
But the good thing is you'll have a design sitting there ready to build. So the guardrails that were installed meet Mass Highway standards right now, right?
Actually, the new guardrails are actually, I think, a little bit longer than what's there, so, but the guardrails themselves are Mass Highway standard.
Yeah, I think they came out and inspected it after they were installed by our contractor and said they met them. So is that a bridge or is it a culvert?
It's a good question, you know, it's,
So it doesn't
shows
have a
three
bottom?
wild things, but Mass Highway looks at it
It
as.
doesn't have a bottom in it?
No, it does, it's a culvert. It's a culvert, there's culverts and then bridges over it.
Okay, so there's culverts, so that's more reason why they do design, because right now, according to the Rivers and Streams Act, we needed to have bottomless culverts, so we need to move forward with this design and have it sitting in place until the funding can come available to build it. So I don't think we have any choice we shouldn't be throwing the grant money away for the design, and we should move forward. And in the meantime, we have no liability because we've already spent the money and installed the money on the guardrails that will keep the residents safe.
Do we have a rendering if they're at 25%? Do we have any kind of idea what this would look like in place?
We have plan views, we don't have pictures of.
Plan views are better than nothing. And to answer the question of what happens if you go to full plan and then decide you don't want it, we did that before with the sidewalks in Central Village. And they're like an elephant. They have a long memory. And it still hasn't disappeared from their institutional memory that they did that with Westport. They gave us the money and then we said, no, thank you. So I think you have to be careful with getting further along if you're not going to do it.
Well, it seems like the only way to address the neighbors' concerns to change the design is to go forward with the design. Like, I don't know how else you're gonna change the design. They're not working on it at all right now. So if we tell them, hey, please keep working on it, then they at least, it's possible that they'll consider the.
Yeah,
I know.
they've given us indication that they would do some of the small aesthetic stuff. Anything beyond that, it does not appear that,
Yeah, if you wanna talk, you need to, go to the mic.
Thank you very much. Patrick McBride, Drift Road in Westport. It's been 5 years since we've been talking about this, so I appreciate your patience. A couple things I just want to clarify. this really is about the proposal that was accepted by PAR and Mass DOT. I don't know if everyone had a chance to read that, or it was probably 4 years ago that you saw it. Our issue is that in the list that you have shows about 15 and 8 items that have not been addressed by PAR in the proposal that was signed. They just left them out. And so what we're asking is that PAR finish those components of the proposal, because that's how you get a true picture of what this project will cost. It will probably cost $2.5 million, but by the time we get done with this, probably up to about $3.5 million. Next subject, or next topic is, we heard Mass DOT and PAR tell us on numerous occasions, this can't be done, this can't be done, this can't be done. And we showed them where it was done in Massachusetts. And they came back to us and said, okay, we can make these changes. They reduced the guardrail by 28 feet. They first extended it by 32 feet, and then we said, no, that's too long, it can be shorter. And they came back and said, yeah, if we move this and we move that, we can reduce it by 28 feet. Okay, we know they can reduce it more. They're just saying, no, we don't want to do any more, okay? Again, getting back to the proposal, the $7,000 that the town of Westport spent did not have to be spent. We said that at the last select board meeting. If you read the proposal, there's about 6 other items in there that cover that $7,000. So we could have went back to PAR and said, no, we're not going to pay for you. It's right here that you will do this type of work. It's signed off and it's agreed to by the town and by the Mass DOT. So that's where the issue is. We're not opposed to the bridge. We're not opposed to what they're telling us and in the exceptions they're making. We just want to make sure that they make them and that they finish the work that they agreed to do with Mass DOT. That's all we're really asking. So that's our point. We're fine with it moving forward. I would recommend or request the board say, yeah, we'll move forward, but let's address these 15 or 18 items in this letter. Sign it, Town of Westport, and say, go forward and do these things. They mentioned to us, PAR said, we'll look at moving the road 6 to 8 feet, 10 feet to the west, if that will straighten the road and take out the length of the guardrails. They did not do that. So there's a lot of things they said they were going to do based upon our meetings that they never did. So that's why we restated those in that letter to you on March 6th. So,
Thank you. So
Thank you.
if we say that we want to move forward, that we eventually going to get another contract with PAR, it's going to come before us where we would see what's in there, or no?
At this point, no, the contract, PA's contract is with Mass DOT. So Mass DOT is waiting on us to say, do we want to go forward with the design, or do we want to hold off? So there should be no supplemental contracts or change orders. Nothing.
There's no opportunity for us to negotiate that contract, because that's between DOT and PAR.
DOT and PAR.
And it will be designed to Mass Highway design, and the aesthetics. I can agree with what he said, and if it can be moved to shorten the guardrails, and I'm sure they'll look at that. But the other reason to move forward is because of the culvert. We're getting grants to replace culverts all the way down Drift Road right now. We have a culvert that blew out on Gifford Road that was replaced with another pipe. I mean, we have a thing called the Rivers and Streams Act. They had to be bottomless culverts, and that's going back to the late 90s. So the design won't go bad, and we get a little bit of time at 25%. I mean, PAR will be working with them on shops back and forth, and we can go forward, and let's get the design sitting there so when the state feels they have the money available, it'll get built.
David Lalima, I live at 418 D Drift Road. I'm going to take a little different tack on this as a lawyer in me. I think I've seen more policy issues and problems than I see technical issues. But I think if you just look at this and look at the way we're functioning here, the original process started with guardrails that weren't needed, okay? And I would say the first thing I would suggest to this board would be in the future, we asked 5 years ago or 4 years ago that you set a subcommittee up, that there's decision-making regarding the roadwork and guardrails on every single incident, because you are seriously affecting the aesthetics of this town. And going forward, with no money in capital improvements for infrastructure, most of the transportation money that you have is from Chapter 90. And you get that from the state. And it's basically the same amount every year based on mileage. And it's pretty high. We might be in the 5th or 6th percentile or 15th percentile in the entire state, 351 towns. We get almost $700,000 a year in Chapter 90 monies, which was utilized, by the way, to put these guardrails in originally when Jake and I were working on the walls next to the old bridge that was there. Then the guardrails appeared, and we were incensed as neighbors, as taxpayers. We were incensed that no one talked to us, no one said a word to us. They just put them in. And when we asked why, well, it was empty, because it's done. It's over, basically. To Jim's credit, we tried to figure out a way to ameliorate this problem, and Jim foretold the story, which was, I'll apply for a small bridge grant. And by the way, just the term small bridge grant, when you think of the word small bridge, you would think, and I'm seriously thought about going to the Secretary of Transportation about this program, because this program involves small bridges, I would say a majority in rural areas. We know towns do not have the kind of money. They're not putting money in capital improvements for road work. It's clear just by driving around Westport, you see every guardrail looks like the Mass Turnpike already. And the more culverts we have, bridges or something go on top of them. And right now, what we learned, what I didn't know, and I'm not blaming Jim, but when Jim said to me, oh, by the way, be careful what you wish for. I remember those words. And Jim said, gee, you have no idea. We think we're going to get rid of the guardrail problem by putting a bridge there. That's sort of the wishful fantasy that we had. And the reality was, with all due respect, man, the problem I'm having is that we had a contract with them. They knew, I don't know if Jim knew, they weren't going to talk to the community. They had no interest in talking to us. They designed a 25% design independent of us. Who cares what you think? Yet, when you read DOT literature, it always says community input. Now, maybe the community input in that language meant talking to Jim. It did not mean talking to us. They never talked to us. Dick Brewer was in the meeting when they did talk to us, and they talked to us like we were dogs, like we were, who are you, what do you want? Why do you want this? We have good reason to be angry. We were treated shabbily by DOT. They never talked to us. Not once, Manny, not once did they talk to us. We had to get them to get an extra $7,000 out of the town to have a meeting with the community about what they were designing. And why did they not want to meet with us? It was simple. They already had a formula. And the formula, you just read it all. I went through it with Patrick. He's gotten me a million pieces of paper, reading statutes, reading the federal law, reading the state law. What's it say? It all says the same thing. When we put up guardrails, this is how we're going to do it. When we do this, this is how we're going to do it. No negotiating, no talking. It's just fluff to say you're talking to the community. Forcing us every day to go there to beg. Please, there's a 200-year-old bridge next to it. There are curves, stone walls. Do you really want this for your grandchildren? Do you want it to look like this? And what we have is no money, and we're going begging to the state, and they're going to tell you, take it the way it is. Tough luck. So with all due respect, yes, you're going to get a free bridge. It's going to look like crap over there on Drift Road. Okay, here we have a town, farms, rural, beautiful. Right to farm, we have wonderful. Now you're going to go over to Drift Road, and what you're going to see in 2 years is a building, a functioning building, a bridge that looks like the Mass Turnpike. And if we didn't, thank God, I'd say that we're now learning from this experience, why we're sitting here talking about this, because we know you're going to say yes, stamp of approval, and you're going to have a bridge over there for free. And I say, future, going forward, try to find some money to start putting money in capital improvement for infrastructure besides Chapter 90 monies, because you're going to have to do this over and over and over again on Drift Road, on Main Road, and it will not look that way for your grandchildren if you keep up this protocol and this process. Yes, it's free, but you have no...
Well, it's not free.
Well,
I mean, it's taxpayer money, but...
With all due respect, the $7,000, if that's what you're kvetching about, the $7,000, when we shouldn't even had to do that. And I think going forward, if this town ever wants more money from the state, you should know and you should tell all of us, by the way, it's not negotiable.
So
It's not negotiable. You're going to get what we give you, and whether you like it or not. And because, Manny, because I and Patrick and Jake and others sat there for 4 years, never talking to us, taxpayers in this town, never talking to us, and saying, well, this is what you're going to get. This is it.
So Manny, I'm going to give you a chance to respond, but before you do, you're probably going to be interested in the next item on our agenda, which is the town engineer position, because one of the things, and this was really Manny advocating for the town engineer.
Well, I'm for that. I am all for having somebody.
Part of the job description of the town engineer is to oversee projects like this and help coordinate the community input, make sure we're reviewing the plans and things like that. So I do remember you saying that we needed a committee to look at this, and I just want to, before Manny talks, I just want to say he's the one advocating for another person.
I applaud that. I think that is, we need to have something looking at, we have infrastructure problems. We know that.
Yeah.
And we know that, by the way, what they're doing now with, I'm having a senior moment here. The Berkshire, the Bay, Buzzards Bay Coalition has taken the lead this time as opposed to DOT. And we're working on culverts for them. And they have a very different approach to design and funding. Patrick has done an unbelievable job researching this thing. We went everywhere to find projects that had some sense of aesthetics and taste. Patrick found many of them, and all of them basically didn't involve the beginning of DOT, because they are not negotiable. Or they,
So Manny, I'm going to.
I'm sorry.
That would probably be a good instance where Buzzards Bay starting the design with Mass DOT. But some of the cases are, it needs to be, anything in town needs to be designed to that specification, to Mass DOT specifications. The aesthetic part, yes, if Buzzards Bay's moving forward with the culverts, and you could probably get that in before, and they work with Mass DOT, it might be a little bit easier. And I kind of disagree on this bridge, the need for this bridge now. All I'm saying is we're in, we need to let the design move forward. I believe we need to move forward with the design at the head first, and construction at the head first. Before that one, there's gonna be a thing, because there's another thing it's called the Rivers and Streams Act, and I think it was the late 90s. And this town, across the board, has kind of avoided it.
Yeah.
In I think it was 1998 or 99.
99.
In Westport Meadows, if you drive through there, I built the bridge because of the Rivers and Streams Act. So that was for a private developer, I was the contractor, and we had to install it to Mass Highway standards. It does, I believe it, I haven't been down there in a long time, it might have a wooden guardrail in it, I'm not sure. I think it does, as a matter of fact.
Well,
That was in the 90s.
But
so-
see, I think, Mandy, we were sort of thrown off by the bridge. It's hard to say bridge, because the culverts that were on what's the name? Chip Brook, they use what we wanted to use, which was stone walls, and you wouldn't know there was I'm going to use the word bridge, it was over the culvert that was there. You could drive down south of Hicks Bridge, you wouldn't know. But we were told after 2017 or 18, we said, why don't you do that here? What, just looks great. You fix the, why couldn't you?
You probably could do that. So they have a design for, like, it would be a batted wall that was out of concrete with rebar, and then you could put a veneer on it. So that's how you could do something like that.
Trip Brook is a stamped concrete
Yeah.
face wall. It looks beautiful.
Right.
Has anyone seen Trip Brook?
You wouldn't even know, you wouldn't know anything, you just,
You also got, in Mass Highway, you got like a changing of the guard too. You know, there's like new kids coming in and stuff like that. And I think that's why, if we have the town engineer, when they start off with this stuff, and I agree with you 100% on what Drift Road looks like, and what it should look like, and what it should continue to look like.
Can I just add one last thing? My wife wants me to advocate for this, and I won't be able to go home if I don't. Can we at least, whether we or you or someone, paint the damn guardrails a color that goes with more of the environment, whether it's brown or green or just not so that it doesn't look like the Mass Turnpike. We're willing to pay for the paint and paint it ourselves.
If you've seen the ones that look rusty,
Yeah, that's Forte, yeah.
that's called weathering steel, and that was one of the things they did. I don't see a problem where you could you know, the town, you know, you could request, I guess, the select board to paint any color.
That's,
Jim, have you looked into that already?
Yeah, I believe they can paint it certain colors. What those colors are, I'm not sure, but I know the brownish.
yeah, it's quite,
is-
yeah. And
is-
if
is
you
a
go to
cut.
the Market Basket, Market Basket guardrails have that. I mean, if Market Basket can have guardrails that
Well,
color.
Dartmouth's doing that too, all they got is a weathering steel. But that could be, that's the chapter 90, they can order it that way, you know, with the weathering steel.
All right, so,
Thank you. I thank you.
so the question before us right now is, do we move forward with the design, or not, right? And that's what you're looking
That's
for
right,
this
yep.
board to do.
And
And-
it doesn't mean we can't stop advocating for.
Right, I
Stuff.
mean,
I just
we
don't want-
don't want to lose the money or the opportunity to go after, you know, if we got a design sitting there, they know the need of which is going to be more important than the other, so.
Thank you, Chair. Jake McGuigan, 397 Drift Road. I've been with Patrick and David working on this for the 4 or 5 year time period. I think they're basically full-fledged engineers, so you may get a resume from them on this new position. But I think the concern that has been amongst all neighbors up and down Drift Road when the guardrails went in originally is that you basically have turned this into a superhighway. And by working with Mass DOT, you're not going to have much say in the matter. And hopefully with Representative Olet up there, maybe that will help to kind of protect the rural nature of our community if he has the opportunity to work on that. Because I think we're going to have a situation where you're getting pushback and complaints with what's going on with Gifford Road and water and various other things. But I think you're also going to have a very difficult situation when they start bringing in a bridge that's going to be of Mass Turnpike standards on Drift Road. So you're going to hear a lot from neighbors, and I think that's going to be a big concern because there will be very little input from the town if you're going to accept those grants and accept that funding. The only bright note for, I think, Drift Road residents with a new administration, I'm not entirely sure the federal funding would be flowing to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts as much as it was prior to, so maybe that does slow down this process. But to Manny's point, I think there are other bridges and locations in town that are a more priority or a higher priority, such as the Head, which receives a tremendous amount of traffic and truck traffic going through there as opposed to what's on Drift Road.
And we do have a report on that. Could you get that report up? And
Yep.
I mean, in a worst-case scenario, as I had said and mentioned maybe 4 or 5 years ago, if there is a concern on that bridge, you could spend about $250 on 2 signs telling them that there's a weight limit and just to use 88, right? I mean, that's essentially what I'm going to have to do once the bridge is to go a mile down the road. I'll have to go 88 and all the way around. Maybe you decrease the truck traffic, and it does help, you know, with the lifespan of that bridge while we're waiting for the funding and various other things. So those are my only concerns. I think that at the end of the day, your input from Westport and local residents will not be heard when we are partnering with Mass DOT on this bridge. Thank you.
I got another question too on this, the thing that came up with fence viewers and so forth. I mean, is this something that can be put into that purview? Because, so, like, you guys had that guardrail show up, at the same contract, we got the one on Gifford Road in front of the 1849 house. You know, that would have been nice to have a stone wall in front of that house versus having a guardrail, but it was on town property, you know, it's like, maybe, you know, as we're pursuing that, I think, didn't something come up, Jim, on the fence viewers and who's supposed to be on the fence viewers?
We have a site distance complaint that goes to the safety committee.
Just one more couple comments on what we've been discussing. I think Jake and everybody, I think you understand where we're coming from. I think we just want to ask that, well, first, we made a great case for an engineer, so that'll get past the next thing. That should.
Fine.
I mean, so, and I see that person as someone who's going to be overseeing a lot of these projects. I mean, we got the Kirby Brook Bridge. Buzzards Bay Coalition is going to spend $4.4 million in Westport replacing 3 culverts. I've had great conversations with them. They have 4 meetings with the public, just to let you guys know. 4. Okay, so there's going to be more meetings that we will probably be at, but they're approaching it totally different. They also informed me if they don't involve Mass DOT and they find funding elsewhere, Westport can do what they want, but within limits, but not totally, you don't have to do Mass DOT standards. So as long as the money's coming from somewhere else. So there's a lot of things that are going in our favor. And then I guess I just ask that you, when you continue on and you get back to par, Jim, that you say, we'll move forward, but we want these things addressed that were outlined in our letter to you guys on the 6th of March. Happy to sit down and refine that, but those things need to be done. I mean, that's a cold water stream. They never looked at the fish and what they're going to do for pooling and all that for the brook trout. It's not even looked at. If you read the Buzzards Bay Coalition, you got 3 pages about fish and the cold water pooling and all that they're doing there. Yeah, I mean, that wasn't even discussed. There's no landscape design for replenishing the environmental landscape once PAR pulls out. There's no historical study that has been, we've been recognized as a historical site by the state and by the town. There's no study about that site and that stone bridge. There's no protection of that stone bridge 20 feet downstream. There's nothing in the plans, in the proposal, that addresses that. So, you know, PAR will come in, MassDOT will come in, they'll put their bridge in, and then they leave us hanging. We're sitting there, we see a 250-year-old bridge, you know, falling down our front yard. So we just want to make sure they do what is said in the proposal, and other things are instituted in that proposal for us, so.
I mean, I applaud Buzzards Bay on the bottomless culverts, because we're like 35 years past.
I don't know if this culvert is going to be bottomless. I think it might be all contained.
No, it's Rivers and Streams Act, they have to be
Yeah.
bottomless culverts. Like this right now, you know, the one that blew out on Gifford Road is actually above the water, and the fish can't get up it.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that was done in 2012.
You see right there, that's a pool. You can fish out of that. That won't be there when they put the new bridge in.
Yeah, but so the bottomless culvert allows the fish to get upstream. When the herons start running and so forth, the Cold Brook trout, they allow it to get upstream. This culvert, you know, at different levels, they can't, you know, we got the heron run. That's, you know, I can't even believe that that's been that long. And we got some issues coming up over there.
So I just, for the purposes of moving the meeting along, is there any other information that would be helpful for us, for any of the board members, when you're making a decision whether to move forward with the design or not?
I'll make a motion to move forward with the design that's already been paid for, and it's not gonna cost the town any money.
So we have a motion to move forward with design. Is there a second? I will second that. Is there any discussion?
Madam Chair, does the motion include getting satisfaction on the 15 points that neighbors have raised? I've been part of that, and I believe it's totally reasonable. The Department of Transportation has said they will respect that. They really haven't, and we did get the short shrift at that meeting that was referred to earlier. So can we be assured that in that motion that's included?
So what's the mechanism to do that, though? If because we need to tell the DOT that we want to move forward, right? And we can say that we would like you to consider these things, right? But I think if we're not contracting with PAR, and I don't know that we have a mechanism to force them to do anything.
Well, we may not, but I think we have to go on record and we have to push as hard as we can.
The mechanism would be to hire the town engineer, and he can monitor this. He can make sure that he can view daily the comments back and forth with PAR and Mass DOT. I mean, that's.
I'm just saying, we're not a contracted party, so the request that they're asking us to require certain things.
You're not a contracted party, but how SHOP works is the town views what's going on. So it goes back and forth on the website. So the residents.
does your motion-
Residents don't have access to that, but the town engineer would have access to that.
So does your motion then include forwarding the list to DOT? Like, I'm trying to understand the mechanism where we get that information.
You've already sent that, right? I mean, PAR's aware of it. I mean, I did read all the comments from PAR on the last thing that was saying it has to be by Mass DOT standards. But I think in convincing them on different things and veneers and stuff like that, I mean, it would be better that.
Well, so this is like Mr. Brewer brought up, he wants to make sure that is included in the motion, but I'm trying to understand exactly what you want to be included in, like, what's the mechanism to send that over? Go ahead, Craig.
That in our communications with the state, we make sure throughout the process that they're aware of the concerns and the suggestions that have been made by the neighbors and other parties on this. And that we then, that would be the motion. As a board, next time we're gonna vote on this engineer position, that we also, as a board, agree that that's gonna be one of their top priority projects in terms of overseeing. In addition to what's in the job description, that this is on their plate on day one.
Well, it has to be. I mean, it's
I'm
the same thing with
saying
the
that.
curb cuts and all that stuff that's on shops. Nobody's watching any of that, so it has to be. And I believe that's going to be added to the new online permitting, so we're going to have to adhere to that stuff.
So just, because poor Paula has to write this motion down. So,
Sorry, Paul.
so the motion was to move forward with the design, and how are we incorporating with the,
I mean, the
how
only way,
would you like that to be incorporated? I
Well,
guess?
we'd have an amended motion that would include that verbiage, so it's clear to the state that that's what we want, that's what we need, that's what we must have. That's what we should start with. I know a lot can happen between now and then, but it has to be clear coming from us that that's what we want.
And what's the verbiage, though, that you're saying that we want?
We want them to, well, they have the information.
Yeah.
It's really the list of, I believe, 15 items, all of which we all agreed were reasonable, and nobody ever said they weren't from the DOT at any meeting. So that we want to reaffirm that, I guess is the word I'm
Okay,
looking
so
for.
we're gonna, so the motion will include, moving forward, we want to reaffirm our, we want to reaffirm that we want them to address these items in the project going forward.
For project
And-
design,
In the project design, go for it.
final
Okay,
project design.
you got that, Paul? Okay, does everybody understand that?
Yeah, you just need to clarify if it's a suggestion or must, because a must can ruin the project if they're not gonna
I
do
don't
it.
think we can must it.
Well, that's what you need to
Can we?
figure out, because if Mass DOT just says, oh, no, we can't do it, or whatever, and they're gonna go forward with the project, that's what you need to figure out. I'll try to fight for it on my side, but you need to figure out.
let's see if we
it's a
can
must.
amend it a little bit to add that. So we'll move forward with the design, and that we will monitor on the town's end those concerns of the neighbors. That's the only way we're going to be able to deal with
With the
Mass
understanding, well, so they know that's what we're gonna be doing.
Right.
There's no, you didn't tell us, you didn't
Right.
suggest this.
I can agree with that.
Okay.
So that's what we were told and informed by Mass DOT and PAR, that they would listen to you as the town management and try to incorporate whatever you say and whatever we suggest to them.
And they have a list of that already.
Yeah, but.
Well, we'll send it again.
Yeah, we need to send it again. We will need to send it again. But, so our concern is that they really act on that. And I think we haven't been able to be as forceful as we needed to be with Mass DOT and PAR for the last 4 years. I mean, we kind of were dancing with them, and now we want you to come and make these statements clear to them. So, Dick, what you're saying is we need to reaffirm that this is what we want. They will take it and try to make it work.
I think this was I think, a crucial point about why we got a little upset with the process. Because we went through the whole literature, all the regulations, mostly Patrick. But at some point, we found there at the end were exceptions because it was small bridge, just the notion, small bridge, you would think small communities, why everything is not going to be cookie cutter, which we presumed. So here in the end of all of the literature at DOT, there was a place for exceptions, okay? Circumstances, a 200-year-old bridge, or could be anything, okay? Not once was any exception explored. Now, to our way of thinking, if there's an exception out there, Kirby Brook is it. 200-year-old bridge, country road, I mean, no accidents. I mean, there's a lot of things that would be shining a light on an exception. We couldn't even get them to pursue an exception. Not in their lexicon. I can't hear you. Not going to do it. Now, they didn't say that. They just didn't do anything. So that's, I think, so to your point of how you're going to, who's the contract with? You're right. The contract is the state has a contract with PAR. To our benefit, you are designing for $500,000. You pick an engineer, and they will work for you. But they really didn't work for us, just so you know. They did not.
Representative.
I think we're probably ready to
I
vote.
think we're going over and over it. We've made some motion, we made a motion.
Yep.
We've modified the motion. I think it's addressing the concerns, and that, and
Put an
I
end
think
to it.
I agree.
so that we can,
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have one abstention, so that's 4 in favor and 1 abstention.
okay.
F, review and approve the job description for the town engineer. So, Jim or Paula, somebody left these on our desk here. We have, I was a little confused, so I just want to talk about, the one that says A on it was the job description that was approved last year by the personnel board for this position. And the one that says B on it is where Jim incorporated the changes that we talked about, specifically removing the supervision of, because, and then there's some other changes, but it's mostly the supervision part that was removed. I know that I did hear from the town planner and the chair of the Board of Health that they were concerned that they hadn't had input on it, on the job description. But I also think we're not saying they're taking over any job that the town planner is doing or that the Board of Health is doing. They're still, everybody's still responsible for what they're responsible for. This is just another resource available to the town.
I also think by I think we talked about it at the last meeting, this whole issue between line versus staff, and that this is functioning in a staff capacity, will deal with, I think, at least a lot of the concerns I read earlier today, and when I came in tonight, so I didn't have a lot of time to digest all of those options, but I do think that goes a long way. And then you don't get into potential grievances. I mean, if you're going into all that, the line type of thing, you are running the risk of not only dealing with the internal management of it, but also dealing with, I think, personnel issues, because you're injecting a level of oversight that is not in people's job descriptions.
It still says the highway department on it. It's currently in the budget under the highway department, right? Are you?
That's correct.
But and that's where it was before. Okay. The concern about being in the highway department is we have a town bylaw that says that highway department employees have to be in town. So I guess we'll just see if that becomes a problem or not. All right, so what's the desire of the board?
Madam Chair, I think the revision in front of us, which others cannot see, probably does it, because I,
B, right? Yeah.
yeah. I called Jim when I read it, and I said, it still has what I call, to Craig's point, a lot of line responsibilities in there, and supervision and employee performance appraisals and so on and so forth, reprimands. And so getting that out of there, expunging that, would make this more like a staff job, which we had discussed, which seemed to be the sentiment of the select board, in addition to my own. I think this does it. We can take another look at it, but if it does that, then I'd be happy with that. I do support having a town engineer.
Jim? Oh, wait, sorry. Is there anybody else on the board have a comment before I go, Jim? All right, Jim.
First, I want to say that I think we really do need a town engineer. But I think we were taken aback by having a lot of the job description be directed towards what we do at the planning board. And for the 11, the numbered extension functions are concerning the planning board's function. And I was surprised that we weren't, nobody reached out to find out what we thought of these things beforehand. So you have the letter from, or the memo from Michael Burris. I don't know if everybody else has.
I got it.
If not, I can read the pertinent parts.
I did not see it.
So, currently, the planning board uses a consulting engineer to provide most of these services to the board. And it is paid for by the applicant, not by the town. The board has its own authority to promulgate regulations and procedures for project review. And so the items that were highlighted should only be at the planning board's request not as a default job description. The board has a lot of discretion with consultant engineer selection outlined in the board's site plan rules and regulations and zoning bylaw. And as an independently elected body, how they choose to review projects should be their purview. The board has not had the opportunity to formally consider what's being proposed, which could significantly change our current workflow. I'm really confused why we weren't consulted, because we have a process in place and it is working well. Our office is very transparent and proactive to find new opportunities that benefit the town. I'm open to modifying the workflow, but this raises a lot of questions because no one approached us to see what's working and what could be improved. And so I would suggest adding to the job description that they be in, part of their job description be analyzing the stormwater issues that we have in town and proposing fixes for some of these. Because as we've been doing in the planning board from day one, when we come to an issue with stormwater, it's generally some kind of half-baked stormwater thing that's attached to the road and goes off onto private property. And usually it is without an easement across that person's property, including pipes and things of that nature. So I think all of that stuff would be the purview of this town engineer, as well as what you say here. And also, he could help engineer projects, for instance, like Buzzards Bay is doing with the culverts, and Michael Burris is helping to get those grants. He could propose new things, like the bridge at the head of Westport, without trying to go through everything else. So I would suggest that it's imperative to get a town engineer. I think you have to tweak the job description.
I would also recommend that we do submit this to the planning board to try to review it and see what they can do. I mean, we have Bob Daler in there that's, you know, we are an elected position, and he donates his time. And, because I certainly do not see the need for them to attend regular planning board meetings. Conservation Commission's an appointed board. I can see if he's needed there, but the planning board, and then we're getting into the private end of it. This is, the town engineer was more as it's a town engineer. It's not for private projects, and how they can coordinate with the public.
Craig?
Yes, and we should also extend the same courtesy and to the Board of Health.
I think, and the Conservation Commission, because they're listed in here too.
So,
Well, Conservation Commission's appointed, so I don't see.
I mean, the other are elected boards, and they do have very specific.
Yeah.
Can I just,
Yeah, go ahead.
so this has been going on for over a year now. So this went to the Personnel Board, the town engineer position, over a year ago, and they had approved it. It's been back before the Select Board probably 2 or 3 times at least where we've discussed it. So it's been out there. I think, you know, everybody, you know, I was surprised that planning and was not aware of it when he wrote that email. But anyway, as far as the functions go, it just describes what the functions are. It doesn't give them any authority over the planning board. It doesn't give them any authority over the Board of Health. If the planning board doesn't want him going to the meeting, he doesn't go to the meeting.
I don't think there's any need for them to go to the meeting. It's something that on a regular daily basis, the staff can communicate with him. There's no need for him to have overtime to go to a planning board meeting, or a conservation meeting, or a Board of Health meeting.
I will say that, yeah, I worked in Swansea, and we did for the planning board, and we had engineering consultants who would review the plans, review the design similar to Westport. They also had a town engineer, Mr. Webster, at the time, and he would attend some of the planning board meetings when he had concerns about the design. Didn't mean he overrode the consultants' comments. You know, the planning board would take his comments into consideration as well and render a decision. But it was helpful on occasions, because sometimes the engineer knows what's happening in the streets around the subdivision or the site plan where a consultant may not know. So I wouldn't rule it out completely. That's just my own opinion. If you do, that's fine, but
So, if we were gonna do that, and we were gonna get away with not using consultants, and we had the planning board, instead of a consultant, pay our town engineer to do it, I could see that case, but we're not going in that direction, or I don't even want to say that we're trying to, but I think that would be more on the planning board's privy to look into that.
So I think we have three options in front of us, right? We can accept the job description as presented by Jim. We can accept it with some amendments if we want to make some specific changes right now. Or we can not accept it now and send it to particularly the Board of Health and the Planning Board and seek their input. I think those are our three choices, unless there's.
I would move it forward on the need for the engineering and accept it and just remove the planning board meetings. I mean, it would be that simple to me.
Madam Chair, are we talking about this draft removing some of those line-type management functions? Is that
So, like I said, we can, kind of like the moderator says, right? If you're gonna make a few changes, we could make a few changes right now and just cross them out and work together, right? If we think that there's more than just a couple of simple changes, then I think we should not address it right now. We should go rewrite it or consult with people. So I think it just depends on whether we want to accept it. Do we want to make some small tweaks to it here, or do we want to come back to it another time?
I think we could do some combination of this and still advertise the position, so that before we offer the position, we will have dealt with our processes and concerns, so that we're fine-tuning the job description, but,
That would be in the contract, maybe?
well, let's put it this way. You can advertise a job, you can solicit candidates that are reasonably qualified for the job, hopefully. And you can use some of that time while you're going through the vetting process of these candidates and the interview processes to sort of iron out some of the kinks in the job description. And that's how I'm doing this.
Okay. So, but we don't, the agenda item was to review and approve the job description. So I don't think we can we approve the posting? I don't,
Yeah, we can approve the posting.
do you think that falls under the agenda topic of reviewing and approve? If we don't approve, I actually like what you're saying. We have a little time to do. We're not gonna make significant changes to this that would affect really the candidate's accepting of employment. Or maybe it would affect their accepting it, but they're not whether they're seeking the job, right? So during the interviewing process, I think we have enough here, right? And then we can, in the meantime, we can refer out to these other boards. And before we get to the final employment contract, we'd have to have the final job description. So that's what you're saying. So I guess my question is, can we approve the posting for this position? I don't know that we're properly posted for approving that. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know, at this point, I don't know if 2 weeks is gonna make a big difference. I'd also ask the board to consider, if town meeting approves the residency waiver, that'll open it up to a greater field of candidates, which may be beneficial to the town as well.
I kind of disagree on that one. I think we need somebody from town on this, with all these issues that we have in town with stormwater. We just raised that up with, the consultant might not be aware of what's going on in the streets. I think we should look to see what kind of candidates we get to apply.
And I agree.
Jake?
I think, Jake McGuigan again, I think my only concern is to echo the sentiments of Jim. As Mr. Hartnett stated, it's been out there, but as a member of the Conservation Commission, this is the first I've really heard of this engineering position. So I don't know what it would mean from an oversight position with conservation. We do a lot of outsourcing with consultants and consultant engineers to do work. So again, I think maybe the proper boards should be consulted with respect to how that's going to impact their jobs, how it's going to impact the conservation agent with respect to his duties and his responsibilities, and what we use the Wetlands Protection Fund and our fund for to hire engineers. And to Manny's point, I believe if we are going down this road, that it should be somebody that has a intimate knowledge from Westport, that understands the situation here in Westport, as opposed to doing outside and not understanding the stormwater, not understanding the rural nature of Westport. So I think that should be a priority to make sure that it is somebody within the community that understands what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. Thank you.
It's just, so the warrant article talks about residency preferences rather than requirements, so that you might get someone, say, from Dartmouth or Tiverton or Little Compton, who, you know, but maybe not. So, if we take that approach, I don't think we're properly posted to actually post the job, availability, but I would prefer to do that at the next meeting, so we can properly post that we are going to post the job.
Are we gonna add the stormwater that Jim Whiten mentioned?
Well, I think we also need to refer.
It's in there.
Add referral. All right,
The
the other
description
concern,
includes just about everything. I don't,
Jim, the other thing I didn't notice, is it could be in there somewhere, is who's gonna evaluate this person?
Is
That
the
needs to
town
be
administrator,
specified.
it says
under
town administrator.
administrative direction of the
Administrator,
town
yeah.
administrator and the select board.
Where is it?
On the
Yeah.
supervision.
The idea is not to take anything away from, you know, the planner or the conservation agent or anything. So just so that they can say, hey, pick up the phone and say, what do you think about this? So
Okay,
we'll
so,
show- yeah.
so we're gonna circulate this job description to everybody we can think of that might need to know about it. And then, we will post at the next meeting for posting the position, and then we can continue to review the job description. Is that,
Yeah,
are you okay with that?
like I said, I would just add evaluation in there somewhere, because it's,
Okay. Anybody has feedback, send it to Jim. We're gonna move on. So we have 5G, request from Sue Brayton, the treasurer collector, and Nicole Pearsall, the town accountant, to approve the contract with Zobrio Financial Software. I spend my day job working with ERP systems, so I was kind of excited when I saw
oh boy.
ERP. This is
Good evening.
Sue and Nicole.
Thank
What
you.
brings you here today?
Well, we had a few snags with Springbrook. I've been working with the Abraham Group for a updated chart of accounts, and they've been working with another town, and they misrepresented what they could do for us. So we're not gonna put any more time into trying to work with Springbrook. We're gonna go with Zobrio. It's a proven, we already have it in town. We have it for cash receipts. Sue loves it. Love it, love it. And when they came down and did our presentation, everything looks like they're on board, and they can do exactly what we wanted Springbrook to do. The cost is pretty similar, and we still have the money left from the article for the original software from a couple of years ago. So,
Jim, were you involved at all, or we got?
Yeah, I met with them last week. They seem local, they seem statewide. They have
You're happy
nice-
with them too?
Yeah, I would recommend approval.
Everybody likes-
Madam Chair, I believe that Keith Novo is also supportive of this.
yeah, it's,
Which is important.
definitely. So that's what we've been hearing for, oh God, at least 6, 7 years, that we're running out of room on the server.
Yeah.
SoftWrite, as good as it is, it sits on our server. So eventually, we're gonna run out of room, and because SoftWrite has been sold so many times that they really don't support it as well as they used to. And we really need to go cloud.
Yeah,
So, Yes. yeah.
cloud
So
is there,
Keith
everybody.
is, Keith is definitely in favor.
We need any discussion on it, or are you ready for a vote?
Does anybody have any questions?
I'll move it.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
There you
that's
go.
unanimous.
Thank you.
This wasn't really related to the vote, but, do you guys have, I'm assuming you do, have the capacity to help them take this on? Like,
We're
it
gonna have
requires a
to
lot of
make it
your
happen.
time.
We'll
Okay,
make it happen.
all right.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I still have the Abraham Group is actually redoing our chart of accounts because there has been some issues in the past with not exactly following UMIS.
It's so much easier to redo your chart of accounts in a new system than it is
Absolutely.
to try to.
But they basically said, about a month for us to get the chart of accounts to them. Once they have it, it's, literally, we're already in there. So they just have to make a few changes to what we have with our cash receipt system, and training, we'd be able to go live July 1st. So,
All right. Anything else going on you want to talk about?
audit's in, audit's done. You guys all have the final
I
audit.
was going to tell you that later.
Took away Dick's thunder.
That's all right.
Well, I just wanted to let you know, it is in, it is done. I haven't put it on the website because of course, we're switching, you know, I got the email from Carol that said that anything you put on the website now is not gonna, so I haven't put it up. But yeah, the audit's done, the single audit is in, so it's the federal audit, that's all been approved and everything. I'm going to school next week, so.
All right, well, thank you, ladies.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with the software.
Thank you.
We have a request from Chris Gonzalez, the highway surveyor, to approve the Department of Transportation reimbursements for the 2024 paving improvements project. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so this is standard reimbursements. We get Chapter 90 on a yearly basis. The work is done. We pay the contractor, and then we request reimbursement from the state. So this reimbursement is for $284,527. I'd recommend approval.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. We have a request from Kristen Stinson to approve the warrant for the annual town election to be held on April 8, 2025. And that's all the same locations as we've had. And just a reminder to folks that the polls on the town election are open 10 to 8. So
Not early.
10, they start. All right,
I'll move it.
Second.
do we have any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous.
This is for
Didn't have anything under discussion topics. How about the town administrator report?
Administrative report. I received a letter from Governor Healy on the Chapter 90 reimbursement or authorization this year. So she has a bill currently going through the process, which would up our Chapter 90 allowance by about 50%. We usually get about 200 million, it goes up to 300 million if it goes through.
If it goes through.
If it goes through. So we're hoping it goes through because it does two different things. The first 200 million is based on the standard formula, which is 58% mileage, 20% population, and 21% employment. The second, or if the additional 100 million goes through, that is based solely on road mileage, which would benefit the town of Westport. So hopefully that goes through. Local legislators, they have a recycling and energy drive at the old high school on Saturday, March 29th, between the hours of 9 and 12. This will be at the old high school again on March 29th, between 9 and 12. South Coast Rail was already mentioned. Passenger service will begin on March 24th. Weekend rides and parking will be free on the new Fall River, New Bedford line through the end of April to celebrate the new service. There is a website and a link attached on the town administrator's report. The water billing, we've talked about, I think, in detail. There is just to bring to your attention, there is a leak in the private water line that services some of the homes down in Westport Harbor near the Herring Run on, was it River Road? River Road. That is scheduled to be repaired on Monday. They were gonna try and do it this week. They couldn't get an excavator there, so.
I got a question on that. So, where this was determined, is that a study that we paid for?
What study?
Leak.
Yeah. The report where we're losing 100,000 gallons a day?
So there was a report done that we did not pay for that report.
Paid for that report.
There's another private water,
Hob or something.
yeah, I'm not sure which one it is, but the name of it, but it services the houses over near,
So have they determined where the leak is?
well, it appears that there's a leak right next to the Herring Run. There's,
That looked like a service to me. That doesn't look like 100,000 gallons.
no, I don't think so either. And I read the report a little differently, and I'm not an expert on that by any means, but,
Could you forward me that report?
yeah.
So
anyway-
that contractor, so that's where it goes over the pipe.
Yeah, it's just before the pipe.
So that was was before you, Tim King authorized that to go over the pipe.
Yeah, and they did a repair last year or the year before, I believe, as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, why would we do a repair over that pipe when that culvert gets replaced? It's gotta be under it anyway.
Well, we didn't do the repair. It's a private line, so they
Yeah, but
just
it's
authorized.
in the municipal road, and it's a public water, it's a private public water supply in the road.
It's not, it's a private water supply. It's not not considered a public water supply.
it's a private, it's still a public water supply.
It is not. This one isn't. This one isn't. The other one is. And that's one of the arguments. They think it should be considered a small public water supply, but right now it is not classified.
Can we get the DEP to look at this? What's going on over here?
They've been involved
Because
in
we
this.
got the Heron Run, and whatever needs to be fixed correctly within the next 3 weeks. So I would suggest that we send our contractor up there, because the water supply, that we're losing 100,000 gallons a day, I haven't seen a report, but that's what I was told, that we're losing 100,000 gallons a day of
Right,
water.
let me get you the report.
That's from our aquifer, so whether it's a public water supply, and then they've been drilling wells up there and so forth, so it's kind of a major concern to the town resource, that this private water supply company is not operating correctly. And I think there's been an issue on, there's more houses on this line, and it should be this, so,
Yeah, I don't know all the details. All I know is that Mass DEP oversees that whole public, non-public water supply. That's
can we
not a
forward this
local, it's
report
not
to
a
Mass
local.
DEP?
Yeah, you can forward it to
And tell
her if
them
you
the
like.
urgency of getting somebody to fix this correctly, because now what are you sending the contractor over that put that over the top of the culvert? Is that
I'm not
what's going on
sending the
there?
contractor, so the operator of the system itself is hiring their own contractor to do the work. They've run it by the conservation agent, and they'll also
it's
have
gonna be
Mass, they'll
emergency
also,
order
you
conditions?
just let me finish, please. They'll also have Highway Department oversee the work. Yeah, it's an odd situation, it's not an ideal water pipe in our layout, but it's been there for, I don't know, 100 years?
Well, I think it needs to be to specifications, just like we just had this Mass DOT. Right now, we could get that pipe lower under the culvert correctly. I mean, this pipe probably froze this winter, and that's why we have the leak. So to go over there and fix a leak over the culvert, and then next year it freezes again, I think we kind of have an issue to go in there, let's do the repair correctly over the top. And whether the company, they have to pay somebody to fix it, so why don't we send our contractor that's certified to work on this type of work, that's already here in town, that said he had an available crew to go out there and detect the leak correctly and repair it. So I think that's what we should vote for, is to send them over there. And then if we have to give the private water supply that's got substandard work in our road a bill for this work, that's what we do.
I don't think we have the authority to require a private entity to use the
maybe
contractor of
we can
our
look-
choice
look to
outside of a
legal- look to
procurement
legal on
process.
this, 'cause
I
it is
think
our
it sounds like there's already a plan for a repair
And
that they
gotta
need to
put it
do
over
on an
top of the
emergency
culvert again.
basis.
To me, I think the leak is before the culvert, it could be over the culvert.
So the highway department and the
culvert lifted, it'll
conservation
break
agent are gonna be supervising the work down there. We're gonna send you the report.
So what's highway's qualifications to
I
supervise?
don't know, we're digging, I'm assuming they're digging up our roadway, and so highway's gonna make sure they
They dug
repair
up the
it.
roadway and created this problem. So I'm looking at, let's fix it right now, in the 3 weeks that we have to do it, and send the contractor that's got the water bill, the water in town, to put a specifications to town specifications in our roadway correctly, because they've already done it incorrectly.
There's nothing for
I
us,
mean, what's that?
there's nothing for us to act on tonight regarding to that, right?
Well,
We
you got 3
can't-
weeks before the Heron Run.
So,
You got 100,000 gallons a day running out of the pipe, according to that report.
so,
So anyway,
so
it's
it's
scheduled to
gonna
be
be
fixed Monday.
repaired. We're gonna do the part that we have to do. Probably not gonna be correctly done the way that you want it to be done, but
Not
it's
the way I
gonna be
need it done,
done.
it's the way it needs to, so the town needs to do things.
The town
Specific-
doesn't have
specifications.
authority to
Well, I
require
disagree.
someone to use one of our
I disagree with you.
contractors.
Let's get DEP involved in this. This repair, let's get.
The DEP might have authority, plus we're talking about
the
taking an
DEP does have
action
authority.
here that is not posted. Nobody
Right,
has
we
any
just-
knowledge of that
That is not
project.
anticipated. 48 hours, it
We
just
jumped
came up.
down, we jumped down another rabbit hole and pulled back our discussion using that very same point.
Hey, you guys can do whatever you want.
I-
Okay, go ahead, do whatever you
All
want.
right, so
You
we're
wanna fix
on,
it right,
is
do
there
whatever you
anything
want.
else
Just forward
on
me
the-
that report.
is there anything else on the?
Couple of quick things. Budget update, we did get the Diamond numbers in, which came in 234,000 less than the preliminary budget. Health insurance expenses, we did get that number in, it's gonna be 8.2% increase. It was actually a little bit higher, but
It's less than we thought, yeah.
we brought it down. They put $1 million of the investments into it to bring it down from over 10% down to 8.2%, which is, Even the 10.2, looking at some of these other communities, they're up 15, 17, 25%. There was one that was 40% increase. So overall, the health insurance program group that we're in has been performing fairly well. We've just had 2 new additions to that group as well, which should expand or help us next time we go into negotiations. Local receipts, we're looking to increase that estimate by 200,000 based on DLS that just provided some, they have a dashboard that shows statewide how the local receipts have been coming in, excise tax, and it looks like we can increase that a bit and still stay within our budgets. So overall, I will present this to the board next meeting, just if you want to get your vote on it, but we may be able to limit the free cash to 400,000 and still get the schools up to about 23,650,000, which is not exactly where they want to be, but it's getting closer.
All right, we're not voting on this tonight, but you did send this to the finance committee, so that we have it. Okay.
And then just a couple of quick things. There's a video on the school website. I sent the chair. I don't know if
How could I have forgotten in announcements that the boys' basketball
Didn't
team
get to your turn.
made the Final
Your
Four?
turn,
No,
your
that should have been an
I was
announcement at
gonna
the
bring it
very
up, you just
beginning.
ruined my thunder. Boy, Dick, we're really getting ruined.
Yeah, we are. It's getting bad.
Wait, so the video you're talking about is not the basketball team?
The video I'm talking about was the Secretary of State, the interim Secretary of State of Education came down to Westport. They did like a 2-minute video. It's very impressive. It's a good look for the school. I'd advise you to go on the school community website and take a look at it. It's impressive, so I think it's good
Today,
publicity for
putting
the
in
school.
plugs too.
That's all I have.
12.
I think that's more than enough.
Okay. The minutes,
I've read them, move approval.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Report on the bill warrant?
It's in the file. There were no comments, which is code for there were no problems, but I signed it, so it was routine. All
Thank
set.
you. All right, so liaison committee reports and suggestions for future items. Craig?
Nothing, I don't think we had any
I
meetings
was
last
not
week.
ready yet.
Dick?
Well, I was going to talk about the audit committee, but that's okay, because those are the people who are doing the work on this. But I did want to point out that in the audit committee report, or in the auditor's report, rather, which the audit committee reviewed last week, there were no material weaknesses. So we spent our last meeting going through the other management recommendations, none of which are, I wouldn't say they're not significant, but they're not problematic. And we will continue to do that, and of course, we will ask the select board to entertain Mr. Tony Orzelli, the town auditor, at a later date. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Boys basketball tomorrow, 5 PM.
You had to get
Taunton
it
High
in before
School.
me, huh? All right.
The Climate Resilience Committee met last week. I don't know if there's a video of it or not. It wasn't when I checked, but. I just got it. You just got it, okay. So the Climate Resilience Committee, the first part of the meeting, we had Chief Baldwin talked about what the fire department is seeing, that are changes to town, basically that's impacting the fire, that the fire department is seeing based on some environmental changes that are going on. For example, last year we had a lot of rain in the springtime, and then so there was a lot of vegetation, and then we had a very dry summer, and then it was like a powder keg out there. We talked about, of course, the day that we were meeting was one of those very windy days. We talked about the importance of maintaining good fire safety, but I would suggest, might not be interested in the entire Climate Resilience Committee meeting, but that first part where Chief Baldwin is talking, I thought was pretty interesting about some of the stuff that, and mulch, be careful with mulch. I didn't even know this. Don't put mulch near the foundation of your house.
There you go.
I thought everybody put mulch on the foundation of their house, but don't do it.
There's there was some zoning, building code changes because of Dartmouth Woods, a project that I constructed 20 years ago that caused that fire we had on Easter, when Harry's actually lived on the bottom floor. And we lost the whole building, and someone threw a cigarette out the window.
Into the mulch?
Into the mulch. It went up inside, the building had sprinkler systems, got over the roof. Luckily, everybody was home having Easter dinner when the fire, and no one was injured.
One of the things I found very interesting about the Climate Resilience Committee is I've never been one that paid all that much attention to. It's kind of like that climate is something that other people are thinking about, but a lot of the impacts on Westport are very interesting, like mosquito-borne illnesses, and tick-borne illnesses and things like that. There's really quite a few impacts to the town, so that's, the Climate Resilience Committee is working on a master report. We got some help, I think, from UMass Dartmouth, to help us put the report together, so hopefully, by this summer, we'll be done with that. And that was the only meeting I had. Okay, now,
Just a reminder, it's a couple of meetings coming up. You might, when you have the new board or whatever, you might want to have just another beach meeting to follow up, because it'll be April by then, just a reminder on that. On the fire thing, you might want to touch base with forestry again. We haven't touched that in like 10 or 20 years about a forestry plan for the town. You may want to look into that, Jim, as a side thing. It's not a rush. The other thing I wanted to ask you if we could do is maybe if we could recognize Paul at the next meeting before I take off, because the whole time I was here, I served with Paul, and I know people were saying, give him a citation. Paul
didn't we
Smith.
already give Paul
I don't
a
think we did,
citation?
did we? I did on my end.
We did on the state.
Yeah, on the state level, but I don't think the town's given one, are they, Paul? Yeah,
No.
So, for the whole
Okay.
board to sign off, thank you. And maybe for the next meeting,
Yeah.
before I go sayonara, put my name on it. I think that's it for now.
You, okay, all right.
So on the infrastructure, so I guess it gets running down Route 6 now. We got a lot of complaints on Gifford Road, but I think they were doing a great job. The weather was against them. Many days, the asphalt plant was only open one day a week, and various ones, so they had trouble patching, but they'll be able to catch up with that. But on getting back to the rabbit hole on infrastructure, and with Jim Whiting here speaking, I think in the future discussion, we need to look to creating a water district out there to try to combine these three companies out there. Another question is, we did approve, was it like $40,000 for something out there out of opera money? That's not this report that's coming through now. What was that $40,000 for?
That was to
It was a
look
consultant.
at, yeah, to hire a consultant to look at alternative sites for a new well.
All right, so, I mean, 100,000 gallons a day is kind of a lot of, you might not need a new well. So this report that's coming through wasn't from that money.
No, I don't believe, no.
All right.
All right, anything else?
It'd be a big line if it's 100,000 for 2
So the next meeting is 2 weeks from today, March 24.
I could see 10 though. Sorry, we were talking about gallons, go ahead.
If it's a 6-inch pipe, it's not.
Oh, it is 6.
Okay, anything else?
Accept a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.